Hello, my name is Benjamin Trainer, and I will be your instructor for the Intro to Forensic Science class for this semester. I just wanted to take a minute to introduce myself, go over some material for the class to make sure that you understand my expectations and really just to hopefully help you have the best chance at being as successful as possible. So hopefully that's what this will do. And we'll take some time. I'll try not to make this too long. It'll be longer than I want, but um, again, I want to give you enough information and enough tools to be very, very successful for the course. What you will notice is I have my Canvas screen brought up to the student view. And your student view is going to look a little bit different than obviously what mine does. But I want to show you, as of right now, I have the course information and syllabus brought up. So you have access to all of this information, and we'll go over all of this here in just a second. But then down below that, the way I have mine set up is I break it up into each of the individual weeks, and so you'll have the date of the weeks. And normally, when you click on this, it will give you a drop down of all the various assignments that are due for that particular week. Now, I have not published or posted those yet, so those will not populate yet. But what I will do is I will go through and about a week and a half prior to the start of each of the weeks, I will post the assignments. So, for example, the week that starts August 26th, I will probably post those first assignments August 19th, maybe August 20th, 21st, somewhere in there. But I try to give you about a week and a half or a little bit more to be able to get many of those assignments done, and each of the assignments that end up populating, they will show up in there as well. So hopefully that will help you out. Additionally, what you will also see, and you're probably all very familiar with this, so I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but obviously on the right hand side, you'll see each of the different assignments as they're due. Now, the only things that you'll see in there right now are the crime scene in a box activities, and I'll talk more about that when we get into that. But I've posted all of those so that if you wanted to get a head start on those and get all of that knocked out, you would have that opportunity. None of those are terribly difficult. Um, Making your crime scene in a box takes a few minutes, but it's not a really difficult activity. So those are available, but those will be there throughout the duration of our semester. Okay, so I'm going to leave the student view. I'm going to go back to my view as the professor, maybe here. Let's see if I can do this. Leave student view. There we go. Nice. All right, so bear with me. I apologize for this. Technology's great when it works, and not as great when it tends to get a little squirrely sometimes. Um, if you have trouble with anything as you're going through and doing our assignments, you're going to have to let me know. Uh, Sometimes I will get notifications that things aren't working the way that they're supposed to, but many times I don't. And so if that ends up being the case, please let me know so that I can help you out. We can get things taken care of. Okay. That's important to me. I don't want to see anybody not be successful, especially not for something silly. All right. So, again, if we can change that or fix that, uh, please reach out to me and let me know. So anyhow, let's go ahead and go through and look at some of this stuff. We'll just start at the top in terms of the introduction. No, we don't want to start with introduction. I lied to you. That's what I'm looking at right now, and that's what I'm getting ready to post. So let's start with the syllabus. See if this will work. If it'll switch gears on me here. So what I've done, the syllabus is pretty basic. It's going to give you your ways of being able to contact me. If you need to be able to email me, or if you want to give me a call, you have that opportunity. We can set up Zoom meetings if you had the desire to meet in person for whatever reason. That's an opportunity that we have as well. So something to be mindful of there. Oh, shoot, I meant to change this. My apologies. I need to change this to obviously fall 2024. I've made a few tweaks to things from the spring to the fall session. Not a lot, but a few things. I'll click on this link here momentarily, but it's going to just simply take us to our schedule for the course. So you'll notice I've got everything on here. Obviously, with me being an adjunct, I don't really have a building or an office per se. But you'll notice you can reach me via Google Voice. Um, you can send texts or calls to that. Now, if I don't answer right away or respond, um, give me a little bit. But if you don't hear from me within a day or less than a day, actually, if you don't hear from me within a day, then there's an issue. So reach out to me again, whether it's via email or whatever, and I'll do my best to get back to you. I don't want anybody to have to wait on a response or anything like that, um, especially if it's a question about an assignment or a concern that you might have. So something to keep in mind there. Office hours Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Sorry, from 5 to 7 p.m. If you need to get hold of me, we can do a Zoom meeting very easily. If you just want to call and chat to maybe clear up any confusion that you might have, we can do that very easily as well. It's not a difficult thing to do. And again, I'm here to try to help you out and hopefully make the class informative, maybe a little entertaining, uh, but hopefully something that you find useful. So, for me, that's kind of my goal. It is a one semester course, right? So we've got the lab part, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But I want to take this opportunity just to say the lab part that we do does take some time. Some take more time than others. Some of the lab activities require more time than the others. So it's something that you're going to need to build some time into your week to be able to accomplish. And I'll explain what I mean with that a little bit more a little later on. Okay. And then the lecture portion, all of the lectures have been recorded. A few of them have some additions that I've made, a few changes that I've made, obviously, since I made the original videos. But by and large, most of the information is pretty good. So if you find something that's not right, please let me know. I can make corrections or any of that stuff relatively easily. We don't have a textbook per se. If you click on this link, it will take you to a website where you can download a version of the forensic science textbook that most of our information has come from. Now, understand that I've taken our information from many different sources, whether some classes that I've taken in the past or several different textbooks that I have. um, but regardless, you would be able to find a great deal of information at that site. So something that would be useful to you there. And it's not something that's required. It does have some stories, and it gives you some practical applications of maybe the use of trace evidence or fingerprinting or whatever. It's got some stories that goes along with it, and they're pretty good. So if you have time, if that's an interest of yours, you might want to consider looking into that. I will post as we do some of our readings. We will have additional articles, and so I'll put those in Canvas. Many of those will be linked to Google or yeah, into Google for you to be able to have access to. But I will post all of that so you'll have access to it and be able to get to that. All right. Again, make sure you're checking your Canvas. Another thing that I need to make sure that I mentioned, make sure you're checking your email. I will send out emails. So, for example, as we get our um, Science Interactive login codes and things like that, I'll be posting all of that in your email. I'll post a link in our Canvas discussions or announcements. So please make sure that you check those and you check those frequently, at least once a day. I would encourage you to at least take a peek. Um, Many of you probably already do that with your other classes, but in the event that you don't, again, I want to make sure that I at least mention that now. So you can look here in terms of the course goals. I've got the different learning objectives in each of the different parts associated with each of our different lecture series. So you'll find those. Grading, the point total I think is higher than this. I'm nearly 100% positive it's higher than this because we have our crime scene in the box stuff that I have in here as well. So there's a number of things that aren't necessarily completely accurate. You do have 4 exams. Your semester exam, if you will, is just going to be exam number 2 for us. Each exam is technically um, it's not all encompassing, but you have to keep in mind a lot of the information that we use at the beginning, we're going to build on as we make our way through the semester. So there will still be a number of ideas that are going to kind of be kept throughout the duration of the course, whether it's class versus individual evidence, whether it's Lacard's principle, whatever it might be. Those are things that you're going to want to kind of keep in mind. So, while I would love to be able to tell you to learn it and then forget it, that's not a very practical thing in this particular application. So, something to bear in mind there. Your lab assignments, these values change. Each of the different online activities are going to be worth different point values. So these aren't necessarily completely accurate. So they do change a little bit, but overall, it'll be at least 700 points really in total that really you're going to look at. Okay. Um, but again, that will vary. As I mentioned, for exams, they're at least 50 points. I think the biggest one is 64, maybe. Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head, but again, I've tweaked those a little bit, and I'll probably continue to add some questions, take some questions out. But they're around 50 points, give or take a little bit. Quizzes are 10 to 12 to 15 points. You'll have a quiz for each section, so you have 10 quizzes overall, and I'll show you what I mean once we get into to looking at our weekly calendar, if you will. Again, lab activities and assignments, however you need to submit it, PDF, Word, Google Doc, doesn't matter to me as long as I have access to it. I've had issues in the past where someone has submitted something and I can't open it or can't access it. If that's the case, I'll send you a message saying, "Hey, please correct that so that I can get access to that." If it's something that recurs repeatedly, then we'll have to have a conversation about maybe changing how something is done, especially if it causes your assignments to be turned in late. That's something that you need to kind of keep in mind. Articles are reading articles that will do to increase scientific literacy and then really get you to kind of think about some of these topics, especially topics that pertain to us in this particular class, forensic science. So that'll be a big part of this. Not a huge, but there will be a few points awarded to that, and we'll talk about that kind of as we get going. There's some discussions that will be part of that with the discussions. Normally, what I ask is that you post your reply to some questions that I have, and then you respond to other people's posts as well. Normally, about three. It's not difficult. It's not something that takes lots and lots of time, but oftentimes we do get some pretty good conversations going back and forth in terms of people's interpretation and understanding of some of the different forensic science topics. So it's pretty good. I enjoy doing that. The outline, again, this is a pretty rough outline. All of the topics are covered. Some of them take a little longer than others, but you'll get an introduction, and then we'll do the in terms of securing and searching crime scenes and processing evidence, how to package it, how to transport it, all that stuff. We'll do manner, mechanism, and cause of death, and then we'll do insects entomology as it relates to relating to time of death. We'll talk about Alger, Rigger, and Liver Mortis, the Morty boys, if you will. Ever seen that funny little video? But that's a couple. And trace evidence takes a minute. This is kind of a long section, um, but valuable in terms of kind of how that information ends up being presented. Fingerprints, handwriting, forgery, and counterfeiting. This is broken into sections. Sorry. Fingerprints are a standalone, and then a document analysis, if you will, is going to be its own section as well. DNA fingerprinting, DNA profiling, if you will, that's a big section. And the reason for that today, there are so many cases that are being solved really almost just right and left, if you will, where DNA fingerprinting is what's allowing the investigators to make these, um, whether it's an arrest or just simply a discovery. Very very valuable tool today, not one that will decrease in value over time. Over our lifetime, this is only going to become better and better, and more valuable, more useful. Forensic tox, that's kind of a fun section as well. Forensic anthropology, serology, and blood spatter. This is one that I find particularly fascinating. Really, all of this stuff to me is fascinating, but I'm a science nerd, and I'll be the first to admit it. Tool marks and impressions, and then ballistics, so firearms and arson. Those are the different topics, I guess, that we'll be discussing. I don't have anything on cybersecurity or anything like that. I probably should, but it's not something that I've added. And honestly, I have a difficult time getting through all of this in our allotted time. So uh, I feel pretty comfortable just with the information that you have here. You would have a very good base to take a forensic science course later on and be quite successful. Um, and you'd be just fine. So we have a final exam and a lab practical, and I'll talk more about those kind of once we get to that section. As I said, everything is subjected to change. Make sure you're showing up to class and you're doing your work. Each week, I have to record whether students have or have not attended class. And for me, and since this is an asynchronous class, the way that we'll do that is simply by whether or not you've turned in assignments. So if you're turning in assignments each week, even if they're not all right, again, I'm not looking for everything to be correct. I would like it to be. Obviously, that would make it easiest for you and things like that. But as long as you're turning in your work and doing a good job of answering questions or asking questions, whatever it might be, then you'll be counted as an attendance. Okay, so that ends up being very very important. I don't count attendance as part of your grade, but obviously, if you're not staying up on the material that we're covering, you're gonna struggle. I've seen it demonstrated several different times, and I hate to see that happen for students, but um, you need to make sure you're taking care of your classwork. If there's something that's causing you some distress or making it so that you're unable to do your work, yeah, again, you need to reach out to me, and we'll see what we can come up with. All right. Um, Excused absences are good things. Not really. I mean, we don't want you to miss class, but those are the best things. But again, if you're missing material, that's going to be problematic. Okay, so you'll notice here missing class due to outside interests, jobs, and extracurricular activities are considered unexcused and may not be allowed to make up quizzes, assignments, or exams. Okay, that's something to really kind of keep in the back of your mind as you're going through and doing your different materials and doing your activities. Okay. Make sure you're watching classes, your lectures prior to doing your labs. Uh, I think it's going to give you the best opportunity to be as successful as possible. Make sure that you're doing your quizzes. Make sure you're doing your labs, all of that good stuff when it needs to be done. Which leads us into late work. Um, if you plan on doing things late, you're probably not going to get credit. I'm going to be very honest with you. Um, Extensions are granted very reluctantly on my part. I'm not going to lie to you. There aren't many reasons that people have that are going to be good reasons. There are things that come up, and I get that. But again, very important. So you'll notice that even if you do get an extension, right? This is important. Even with an extension, you're going to experience a 10% deduction per day that it's not done. Okay, so keep that in mind. That's very very important. So after 10 days, it's a zero at that particular point. Okay, so important that you're staying up to date and getting things turned in on time. If you know that you're going to be gone, maybe you've got a vacation, maybe whatever it might be, maybe you're having a surgery, I don't know. Again, I can work with those things, but if you have an assignment due tomorrow and you're texting me or calling me or emailing me today saying, "Hey, I don't know how to do this," if I don't have a chance to respond to you, I'm sorry, but if you wait till the last second, there's not a lot I can do to help you. Okay, so important to kind of keep that in mind. Um, Again, I'm not trying to deny anybody's points. I'm not trying to um, make this a miserable time. Uh, but if everybody turned everything in late, we would never be able to get anything done, and so that's not okay. All right, so understand kind of where I'm coming from and what I'm looking at. In terms of exam makeups, again, you've got to let me know that you're going to miss it, and you got to have a good reason. It better be a darn good reason. I'm not going to lie to you, okay? In order to be able to make up an exam, it has happened. Whether people have had experienced some, I don't know, computer crash or the school has whatever blocked our websites, which happens occasionally. But most of the time, if you miss an exam, unfortunately, it's going to go in as a zero. So I kind of keep that in mind. Regrade request, you can have something regraded if you think that I made a mistake, and if I did, listen, I apologize. I try not to. Um, I try to go back over things several times to make sure that I'm happy with what I've got. But if not, then by all means, please reach out to me. Let me know and say, hey, I thought I did better than that. And if I didn't, can you explain why? I have no problems with that, and I will do my best to try to be clear about that. Plagiarism, right? Make sure you're doing your own work. Make sure you're not copying and pasting things that's not original to you. That's going to be important. If you're working with someone, you're going to get a zero. I'm just going to be straight with you. That's going to be important that you're doing your own stuff. All right. If you need help, again, please make sure you reach out to me. I will do my best to help you out. Okay. Again, communication. Right. Make sure you can communicate everything with me. And then the lab policies, basic type of stuff. And then some of the Marion Tech specific things in terms of what you're going to be looking at. Again, you can go through and look at those kind of at your leisure. There is some stuff on AI, so make sure you take a look at that. Academic misconduct, that's a big deal. Um, one of the things that we have is Respondus. I will go back and check those videos. I'm just being honest with you. I want to make sure that people are doing their own work and doing their work correctly. All right. Accommodations for disabilities, non-discrimination, Title IX stuff. Again, all of these different things. Tutoring is available. Important to kind of keep in mind. If you need help with any type of mental health stuff, please reach out to me or one of the other professionals at Marion Tech. All of those things are going to be very important things to kind of keep in mind. Okay. What else? I think that's everything on that particular one. So, as I told you, I was going to go over. Now, this it's a calendar of sorts. It's not super specific, and it's pretty rudimentary if I'm being honest with you. But you'll notice I've broken it into weeks, and I just have Monday and Wednesday. Now, if you're only working on Mondays and Wednesdays, you're going to struggle. I'm just going to be real honest with you. This is set up to show if we were in person, we would lecture on Mondays and Wednesdays, and we would have labs then after our lectures, and it would be a 3 hour block for each of those days. So really, this is planning for a minimum of 6 hours per week in person, right? So there's a number of things that would have to take place outside of class on your own. But this kind of gives you an idea. You'll notice week one is busy. Week two, still pretty busy. Week three, not as bad. And then it kind of slows down just a little bit. I will tell you, week one is slammed. And I'm not telling you that to scare you or anything else. I'm telling you that so that you can plan ahead. So if you watch this early, start early. It's going to really help you. Like I said, I'll open it up so that you have access to it, and it will really make your life a lot easier. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. But you can go through week five, very easy. Week six, again, not bad. You'll notice week six, exam one. All right. Um, so you'll notice we're 6 weeks in before your first exam. That's not terrible. I don't think. Again, I'm a little bit biased. Week seven, week eight, right? You'll notice week nine is our second exam. So we go 6 weeks and then we go just 3 weeks. It's a little weird, but again, we got to cover some information to make it a little bit more useful, right? Exam three is week 13, and then exam four is the 16th week. And remember, they're not cumulative. Each one is broken up by the different topics that will be on there. And again, I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. Okay, so I'm going to close that and we'll go back to our course information and syllabus, all that good stuff. So the class schedules were just what we looked at. If you need any help with testing or anything like that, the textbook information is the link that I talked about previously on the syllabus. Respondus Lockdown Browser. This is going to allow you to be able to download Respondus. So every quiz and every exam that you take, you're going to need to use that in order for your exam and or quiz to be able to be taken. Right? So it's going to be important that you have access to that to be able to use it. Okay. Resources and contacts, tips that will help you take online classes. This voucher redemption. So what's going to happen is we are going to get some vouchers from Science Interactive. All right, so Science Interactive is the online platform that we're going to use as our lab portion. You will get a hands-on, real in person lab kit that you will do with each of your different activities. In order to be able to claim that, you're going to get a voucher. I will email you that voucher. You then will email Science Interactive and they will send you a kit. When you get that kit, you will have all the material that you need to be able to do the different labs. Now, in saying that, we have had some issues. People have had some of their reagents that either leaked out or they're missing something. So, one thing that I'm going to tell you now, make sure you check all of your materials. If you don't have them, if you contact Science Interactive, they will send you new ones. Right. So that's very, very important. You'll still be able to do your labs. So if you get to a lab and you're like, oh, goodness, I didn't notice this was gone, email me, email the company, email me to tell me, hey, I didn't have this, so I need a second. Email the company and they will ship it out to you real fast. They're very, very good about responses. And they want their product to be good. I've got to give them credit. They do a nice job with that. Okay. If you're having trouble getting labs to work and things like that, again, go to this student help area and it will help you immensely. Okay. Science study tips. Again, you can take a look at that at your leisure, and if you need to. Again, my guess is you've signed up for this course, so you're probably pretty successful. I do want to show you the crime scene in a box. Remember, that was the thing that had populated. So the crime scene in a box. This is something that will go on for much of our semester. It doesn't take the whole semester, but it takes a good chunk of it. So, what I've done, I tried to spell out or at least explain kind of what you are going to be doing. All right. It gives you kind of a checklist in terms of what you're going to need to do to be, again, to be as successful as possible. And you're going to go through, and these are the different things that you're going to do to be able to create your crime scene in a box. And you will need to create, I know we're doing this asynchronously, but you'll still need to create a crime scene in a box because you're going to end up sharing that with me. I, in turn, then will share that with another student who will kind of help determine, I guess, help determine your grade, but it'll help determine their grade as well. So you got part one, the brainstorming, part two, part three, part four, part five. All right. And so this is where it's swapped with someone else and they're going to try to solve your crime. Now, I have different forms, and all of these are linked in Canvas. So you don't have to do anything with this one specifically. They're all linked in Canvas, but these are different things that you'll be doing as you go through and do the activity. All right. So that's there. Again, you can look at that at your leisure. If you have questions as you're going through and looking at that, again, please make sure you reach out to me and let me know. Okay. All right. So I'm going to reduce this so that you don't have to look at that. All right. Now, again, I'm warning you now. Week one is busy. So when you see it, please don't freak out. All right. There is a lot of stuff, but please, please, please don't freak out on me. Okay. So, week one, there is a discussion on introductions. I give you an introduction to myself, a little bit of background in terms of my education, um, really my career paths, all that good stuff. And then I ask you a few questions to answer, and it gives us a chance to kind of respond back and forth a little bit. Okay. Again, I haven't posted that yet. Actually, I'll do that right now so that you have that available to you. And then I get the first lecture, right? Scientific method, and then forensic science stuff. So these are the notes for you. If you want to print off a note packet, that's what that would be. And then obviously this is the recording that goes through and talks about each of those different things. You got a junk science video. It's about 5 to 7 minutes. It's not very long. Um, that I want you to watch. It's Bob Stossel going over some interesting things as it pertains to forensic science. So, again, take a look at that. There will be a short discussion on that. You'll notice that down here at Junk Science Discussion. Again, it's 10 points. So, there's some questions that you answer, some responses to other people's responses, things like that. Pretty simple. Bad science reading. All right, this is going to be your first reading assignment with questions to answer, and you'll notice that it's the due date will be associated with that as well. All right, so you'll have that up on there. Okay. There is a respondus This is a test of the Respondus system, if you will, to make sure that you're familiar with it, all that good stuff. The instructions are on there. Make sure you take a look at that. It's 5 points. It's not based on your right or wrong answers. It's based on you get 5 points. If you do that, you get 5 points. So it's really easy. Okay, and that's what it's supposed to do. But it's just familiarity, comfort with the system. If you run into problems, it's a good time to check, and you can let me know, like, hey, Mr. Trainer, what's going on? I don't know why whatever it is happening or isn't happening, and we can get it figured out. And then that way, as we get into subsequent weeks, we don't have to worry about any issues. Okay. There's a discussion on lab safety, a video on that. You'll have a quiz over lab safety. I'll show you that here in just a second. You've got two different lab activities that you have: evidence you make the call and the deadly picnic. Both of those have due dates, the point values associated with each, and then the science interactive stuff. Okay, science interactive. These are four different activities that you can do. Now, please listen because this is important. These first three you can do without your kit being present. Okay, so that's important. Each of these will have some points associated with them. I'm not smart enough on figuring out how to get these to post the same as everything else, but each of these have points associated with them. So if you don't do them, obviously you're going to lose points. And these are not difficult; they're very easy. But what they are is a way to make sure that you know how to navigate through Science Interactive, and we'll be able to do the labs once we get into them in week 2. Okay. So, like I said, week 1, there's a lot of stuff. Now, some of it stretches into week 2. I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but again, notice all of these things will have due dates. The Science Interactive things will have due dates associated with them when you click on them. I haven't made all of those yet, but they will all be there. Okay, so that's week 1. Like I said, a really busy week. Week 2, you'll notice, is a lot shorter. You do have a lab safety quiz. Notice its due date is September the 5th. Okay. So that's going to be important. Again, it's only a 5 pointer, not a big deal. It's based off of the presentation that you had watched last week. Now, if you want to watch that video and then take the quiz, it'll be unlocked. So you have that opportunity. So you want to kind of keep that in mind. But you don't have to. That's totally up to you. The lecture 2 stuff, so your note packet that accompanies lecture 2. Again, if you want to print those off, so that's there. You've got logic puzzle to do, crime scene sketch. And again, the instructions for each of those are present in the assignment. So you click on the assignment. There may be another link that takes you to another page, but regardless, very important there. And then there is the Science Interactive, and this is documenting crime scenes and evidence. So again, you'll click on this, it'll take you to the Science Interactive website where you'll work through some virtual lab stuff, and then you'll do some hands-on lab stuff as well that should help you be able to complete the virtual part. Now, in order to be able to do most of that, you do have to have the kit. So if you have not ordered the kit, you're going to be in trouble. Make sure as soon as I get you your code, you send that or send in for that kit. All right, so you have access to that. All right, so that's week 2. Week 3, I'm just going to go through these just real quick. Here's your first real quiz. So it's going to be based on, you'll see here, quiz 1, introduction and crime scenes. So that's the lectures from the previous 2 weeks, is what that will be based on. So you'll notice this week's lecture is on manner, cause, and mechanism of death and estimating time of death. Those are not part of quiz 1. Okay. So I'm not quizzing you over stuff that you're just learning. I'm quizzing you over material that you learned the previous week or weeks. Okay. So death and entomology, got a couple different assignments to do. First crime scene in a box activity, a virtual activity looking at our necrobiome, the organisms that inhabit our bodies upon death. Kind of an interesting. It's not difficult. It's still very simple. And then you've got a science interactive lab on autopsy. So you'll have a virtual part, you'll have a hands-on part that'll be part of that. Okay. So that's week 3, week 4. All right. Lecture, science interactive. Okay. Quiz. The pattern holds pretty true. You got a quiz or an exam. a lecture, and then your science interactive stuff. Okay, so that's week 4. Week 5, finishing up trace, another reading assignment, crime scene in a box, science interactive. Okay, you'll notice that this week there's no quiz, no quiz, no exam, and there's a reason for that. Okay, so we get to week 6. All right, this is our first exam. Introduction, crime scenes, death, and entomology. Excuse me. Notice it does not include anything on trace evidence. That's important. Okay. So again, you've had a full week, almost 2 weeks, really, to familiarize yourself with the previous information before you take your exam. Hopefully that helps. Maybe not. I don't know. I've found most people do pretty well with that. So, does not include trace evidence, but everything up to that point. And you'll notice we got our lectures and then our science interactive stuff. So then we go to week 7, right? This one's a little longer, quiz over trace evidence, right? Lecture, handwriting, all that good stuff, crime scene and box question documents. Week 8, quiz 4. Okay. We get into our DNA fingerprinting, got an assignment. Now you'll notice this week there's no science interactive, which is nice. You get a break every now and again, not very many. Still continuing with DNA fingerprinting. This is our second exam, and now we do have a science interactive assignment. So exam 2 is week 9, and then again, I'll just go through these real quick. Week 10, kind of see what we've got. Week 10, week 11, and remember, I'll open these up so you can kind of see what you've got. Week 12, week 13. So what I will do, week 14, what will do is I will go through and probably make all of these active, but I'll change the time that the assignment opens. That way you can see like, hey, I've got a quiz week 15, but you won't be able to take it maybe until December the 2nd. If you wanted to take it on the 2nd, it's due obviously the 6th, but you'd have a little bit of leeway there to be able to do that. Okay. And then you get to week 16. Week 16 is exam week. All right. So you got some feedback, our 10th quiz, and then lab practical and exam 4. Okay. So that's kind of what that's going to look like. I hope that helps. I'm trying to see if there's anything that I've forgotten. I probably have. When you take your quizzes and your exams, I would recommend having a calculator and a scrap piece of paper. Um, Make sure your scrap paper is blank, please. Something to write with, obviously. Now, when you take your quizzes and exams, one of the things that Respondus is going to ask that you do is to scan your environment. When you do that, make sure I can see your desktop. Make sure I can see your immediate area. Um, and the reason I'm doing that is because again, when you take your quizzes, when you take your exams, you do not have the opportunity to use cell phones. You don't have the opportunity to use notes. Um, you don't have the opportunity to have the help of anybody else. And I know that's um, probably not what you want to hear, but at this end of the day, I want to know what you know. I want to know what you've retained from the stuff that we've talked about. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for when you do those. So, no cell phones, no smartwatches, none of that stuff, if you will, when you're going to take your exams and quizzes. If you're struggling with something, you need to reach out to me and let me know. Okay, and I will do my best to help you and again make this class enjoyable and informative and hopefully something that you're going to benefit from. Um, I think that's everything. Like I said, I know the video's long, and I apologize for that. Um, but again, I want to set you up to be as successful as possible. Show you some of the tools that you have available to you, and yeah, if you have any questions or whatever, please make sure you reach out to me. Otherwise, good luck during the course. I hope you enjoy it. Um, and if you have any questions or any problems, please let me know.